Hey y'all, I'm James Wright. Welcome to my shop. The Spokeshave is one of my all-time favorite hand tools. But what happens if you take that and a rabbet plane and then mix them both together with a compass plane? In that case, you get one of these. Ooh, let's dive in. The Spokeshave is a fantastic tool. It's one of those things that you can set up and give to a kid and they make shavings all day long. It's a lot of fun and allows you to do some interesting organic shapes. But much like a standard bench plane, it doesn't get into things because there's space from the edge of the sole to the mouth. It's not rabbeting, so it doesn't get inside of a corner. That's where a rabbeting plane comes in. The blade comes all the way to the outside edge, and that can get you right up into a corner so you can actually get a shaving along the board, tight up into the corner. But you see, there's this guy called Stanley, and he was really good at saying, you know what? We need to make a tool that does something a little bit different than either of these. The first Stanley catalog to mention spokeshaves, though, goes through all of the regular spokeshaves, even some Cooper spokeshaves and some weird ones, but it doesn't have a rabbeting spokeshave. For years, they produced all of the spokeshaves, and here's a later catalog where they have even more weird spokeshaves, but still no rabbeting spokeshave. Finally, in the 1930s, though, they have all their spokeshaves they've been selling, even some weird ones with odd handles, and then here we have a rabbeting spokeshave, the 68 and the 71. Carriage makers, car builders, and cabinet makers will find this very convenient tool for finishing panels, rabbets, and etc. And thus was born the Stanley No. 68 rabbeting spokeshave. Look at that. It's got a blade that comes all the way to the outside to make it a rabbeting plane. You'll also notice the sides of it are rounded. They're not flat and square like you'd expect on a normal rabbeting plane. And that's because this was designed to do one specific thing and do one thing really well. Most normal rabbets, they're nice and straight, you can easily do with a regular rabbeting plane. But a spokeshave doesn't really work very well in there because it can rock a little bit, and that means your rabbet is going to change depth as it goes along. That's just kind of odd. Why would you need that? Well, what if the rabbet was on the curved face of the board? Now I can come in with the spokeshave, I can set it on here, and I can follow the curvature of the rabbet. Because I have a slightly rounded face on there, I can get right into the corner and go around curves. I can't do that with this because it can't get all the way into that curved space. And that's why this was listed as a carriage maker's tool, because carriage makers or car makers, anything that does organic shapes and large sweeping surfaces, is often going to have rabbets in a curved edge. And a lot of carriage makers' tools are designed to go around curved surfaces. And so a rabbeting spokeshave would be very useful for them. But the one really weird thing about the Stanley No. 68 is that when they released this, they also released this. It's the exact same thing, but it's made of bronze. It's a step up. Here you can see in the catalog, they listed the 68, and like Stanley and their amazing numbering system, the 71 was the next thing. The 68 was 10 inches by 2 1/8 with a cutter, and the 70 was 10 inches by 2 1/8 with a gauge. Yeah, I know. This is the 68, and you would expect the next one to be 69 or 70, but no, they decided to name it the 71, even though they already had a Stanley 71. Ah! And they couldn't name it the 69 because 69 was the number of an awl. So they named it the 71, which they already had. Yeah, I know, the Stanley numbering system, completely logical. So the 68 and the 71 are almost identical, except for the 71 has a little bit more details put into it, but the 71 also originally came with the gauge or a fence. And oddly enough, the 69 never came with a gauge or a fence. It wasn't even listed in the catalog to have one, even though the fence from the 71 would fit onto the 68, it never came with one of those. You will occasionally find a 68 with a fence or a gauge on there, but you'll very quickly see that it was user-made. A lot of times they're blacksmithed or they're forged out of some other piece, and they're just not quite as fancy as what you're going to find on the 71. And that goes to show people did like using the gauge, but you'll also find a lot of 71s that don't have this because this has a tendency to just disappear over time. Which brings us to the question of rarity. The 68 is not an incredibly rare tool. You will see them from time to time, and they're not that expensive, but they are around. They're just a little bit more difficult to find. The 71, on the other hand, this bronze baby, is relatively expensive. Originally, this was $1.25, but this was $3.55. over twice the price of the original and just made of bronze and comes with a little fence stop. That would be like Lee Nielsen saying this plane is $400 and the bronze one is $900. So because of that, there are not many bronze ones out there, and most of them are actually missing their fence. So if you find the fence and this, that's worth a pretty penny. A lot of people will even say that's almost non-existent. But here I am with one of those amazing tools that doesn't exist because, well, both of these are actually on loan from a friend of the channel who are letting me actually use them for the video, so thank you for that. And I'm probably never going to be able to afford one of these because they're hard to come by, and when they do come up, they are very expensive. Yeah, go check out eBay and protect your pocketbook. But does that fence actually work? You'll actually notice on here it has a curvature to it, just like the side of the body, again allowing you to go around those curved spaces, giving you an even cut out from whatever you're cutting into. Let's see what we get. So we can just follow this around the curve, and well now, would you look at that? We're getting a beautiful rabbet on a curved surface and taking no work at all because that fence just guides it along and gives me a really nice smooth surface. So the 68 and the 71, basically the same thing, except for just like today, there are a few crazy people out there who like to buy really nice things because bronze is better than iron, right? So it's worth paying over twice the price. And it comes with the fence, which honestly, that's actually a nice benefit. And surprisingly, they never sold these with that, which I found to be very surprising. I love going back and digging into old Stanley catalogs because you never know what you're going to find. Stanley did some weird things, and they made these weird things because people would buy them. If no one would buy them, they wouldn't make them. And sometimes those weird things provide kind of interesting pieces into history. These were common when we had carriages, but when carriages disappeared, well, they disappeared out of the Stanley catalog because these weren't very common for furniture builders. You don't really need to do a whole lot of curved rabbets. But for carriage makers, that's really useful. So if you find yourself making a lot of curved rabbets, you might want to look into trying to find one of these. They're not terribly easy to find, but they are around. Or you may actually want to buy a 68 because these are actually relatively simple to find and they don't cost as much as the 71. So yeah, have a little bit of fun with that. So I want to say thank you to the friends of the channel who actually allowed me to borrow these. We will actually be having a few other videos like this because a few people have offered to let me borrow some of the more interesting and rare tools. Stay tuned for that. And if there's something you would like to see, let me know. Comments down below. Helps with the channel. Thank you. As well as patrons and all those people over there. Honestly, thank you. Without you guys, we would not be here. Patrons on this channel make everything happen. And the person who's letting me borrow these is also a patron of the channel, so thank you. You guys are amazing, wonderful, and benevolent people. If you'd like to find out more about that, links down below. I think that'll do it for now, and until next time, have a wonderful day. There are indeed more than 2 ways to skin a cat, and I do enjoy skinning cats. But in this case, we're not going to do that, because today we're shaving rabbits. That is, unless you're in England, and in that case, Stanley liked to sell all of their tools at a discount. You could say they rebated them.